Have you ever wondered how to influence people in an ethical manner that resulted in more sales, leads, and more authority? In this video, I'll share key principles of influence that will allow you to get all those things and lots more. Best of all, these strategies have worked for years and years, and they'll continue to work long after you watch this video. Now, furthermore, these principles of influence will not only result in better marketing, but will also result in happier and healthier relationships with those people you do business with. That's what's coming up here on Brian G. Johnson TV. Hey, it's Brian G. Johnson helping you to stake your claim and amplify your message so you can impact people to action. Because it's simply not enough to share. Rather, you want to create content that inspires people to act on your messages. Now, this is video number 2 in the Magic Bullet book series, which is a case study based on how I launched my book Trust Funnel, and in the process, added more than 1,000 people to a list, generated 5 figures within days of my launch, generated multiple 6 figures within months of my launch, was asked to speak at multiple events, sold thousands of books within days, hit Amazon bestsellers rank of 216, and reached #1 bestseller status across multiple Amazon categories. Now, I don't share those figures to brag, but rather to let you know that what I'm about to share is not based on theory or ideas, but rather it's based on results that I generated, and more importantly, that you can generate as well. Now, this video is based on a book launch. However, anyone who uses social media as part of their marketing strategy will find this video to be valuable. Make sure you watch to the end of this video, as you don't want to miss any of the strategies or tactics that I'm about to lay out. Furthermore, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel here at YouTube, make sure that you do that now, as I share the very strategies, tactics, and methods that I've used since 2003 in order to generate millions of dollars online. Alrighty, let's get into how you can leverage the law of reciprocity in order to ethically influence people and get more of what you want. What I'm about to share is based on principles of influence that I successfully used and still use to this day, that are based on the tremendous book by Robert Cialdini, Influence in Science in Practice. Specifically, we'll talk about the following principles of influence. Number 1, the law of reciprocity. Number 2, social proof. Number 3, liking. And number 4, authority. Furthermore, we'll talk about the importance of building rapport with peers, influencers, and business associates. Now, while I was setting the stage for the release of my book, Trust Funnel, I had a number of sales objectives that I wanted to complete. Now, these sales objectives were focused around increasing visibility, not only of my book, Trust Funnel, but of my personal brand as well. Now, these objectives included, number 1, gaining more visibility for my brand and book prior to its release. Number 2, gaining social proof in the form of pictures that would be shared by peers, influencers, and friends on Facebook. And number 3, gaining ethical reviews of my book on Amazon prior to the official release. And number 4, building a list of people who are interested in buying my book, again, prior to its release. By focusing on these sales objectives early on, you'll be able to incorporate lots of powerful sales elements into your sales funnel, which will improve your overall results later in the book launch process. Now, you'll see how I've incorporated these elements as we move forward with this case study. It all begins with building rapport and leveraging the law of reciprocity. Pay every debt as if God wrote the bill. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And here's another great quote. Because there is a general distaste for those who take and make no effort to give in return, we will often go to great lengths to avoid being considered a moocher, ingrid, or freeloader. It's to those lengths that we will often be taken, and in the process be taken by individuals who stand to gain from our indebtedness. Robert B. Cialdini, Influence, Science, and Practice. Now, the law of reciprocity is simple. If you do something nice for me, I'll do something nice for you in return. The law of reciprocity is considered to be one of the most powerful principles of persuasion known to man. Now, according to psychologists, the reason this persuasion tactic is so incredibly powerful is that as humans, we have a deep need to be even. If you do something nice for me, I feel indebted, even obligated to do something nice for you, again, in return. This is why restaurants often include a token gift such as mints or cookies near the end of a meal. Now, this act of giving or kindness is statistically shown to increase the tip by a huge percentage based on how the wait person presents the bill and generally takes interest in the diners. Example, 1 mint that's presented at the end of a meal generally increases a tip by as much as 3%. However, present 2 mints and the tip increases by as much as 12%. And things get really interesting when the wait person builds rapport with diners during the meal and takes a sincere interest in them. Building rapport is key and takes reciprocity to the next level. And this is why I mentioned taking a sincere interest in others on Facebook and striving to build relationships with people in phase 1 of the Magic Bullet Book system. Now, if you haven't watched that video, simply access the YouTube card to do that now. Take a sincere interest in others, and they're far more likely to take an interest in you. Now, you might be wondering, how can I move forward and do something nice for other people to increase my business? Well, there are lots of ways. You can take them to dinner, or you can offer to help them with a task, or perhaps send them something through the mail, like a book. And this was my approach to send friends, peers, and influencers my book. Now, my results were super, and this step laid the foundation for success with those sales objectives that I mentioned earlier. Now, again, those being number 1, to gain visibility, number 2, to gain social proof in the form of pictures, number 3, to gain ethical book reviews on Amazon, and lastly, number 4, to build a list of those people that were interested in buying my book on the day of its release. Now, a lot of people mess this up by not building rapport prior to sending someone something. This is especially true if your gift contains an ask, such as, hey, I'd love it if you'd support my launch, or hey, it'd be really cool if you could share a picture of my book on Facebook. Now, what I did in retrospect was simply to send them a copy of my book, which I signed, and that was it. Now, to be fair, there's nothing wrong with asking someone to support your launch when you send them something through the mail. However, my instinct was that by just sending them a gift with no strings attached, they'd be far more likely to act on my ask at a later date. However, I only had a limited amount of time, energy, and money, and my goal was to get my book shared by as many friends and peers as possible. Now, in order to do just that, I would leverage another principle of influence, which is called social proof. Social proof is the psychological phenomenon where people assume the actions of others in an attempt to reflect correct behavior for a given situation. And this is why establishing reviews for products, books, or services is so very critical to success. Today, people are busy and they need shortcuts in order to be able to make decisions quickly and easily. Social proof and reviews makes it easy for people to act, move forward, and get on with it in their day-to-day lives. People go to great lengths in order to generate reviews for their said product and or service. Oftentimes, these methods that are used can be unscrupulous, unethical, and may result in loss of business and or bad press. However, it doesn't have to be so complex and or difficult. Now, my strategy for generating social proof and positive reviews was simple and as follows. Number 1, focus on building relationships and building rapport with peers and influencers on Facebook. Number 2, writing a great book that they'd feel great about sharing on Facebook. Number 3, strategically sending out books to those people who showed interest in me and or my brand. And step 4, wait. Remember, social proof is all about people following the actions of others in an attempt to reflect correct behavior. Thus, as people shared my book via Facebook, the likelihood in which others would share would increase because it became the thing to do. And people often base their behavior based on what others have done before them. Furthermore, and this is important, I set the tone for my book launch. It was fun, silly, and it was different. And the very best advertising is all of those things. Just look at the Super Bowl commercials for confirmation. Recipients of my book mentioned wanting to get the book and being in the Cool Kids Club, and they shared, and they shared, and they shared again. And with each picture they shared, my influence and impact grew, and I was able to capture and save those images for later use in my marketing materials and book launching funnel. A couple of tips. Now, I sent out the first copies of my book to Facebook friends who I felt were most likely to share on Facebook. And you can find out who that is by accessing your profile page on Facebook and then navigating to friends. Your friends are listed based on the level of engagement. Number 2, while I sent out somewhere around 150 to 160 books, I only sent out 2 or 3 books each and every day. Rather than having a huge amount of social posts hit Facebook in a short amount of time, my goal was to have people consistently sharing my book over a period of several months leading up to the launch of my book. This allowed me to create a book launch campaign that was nearly impossible to forget because each and every day there was another Trust Funnel post or 2 or 3 in your Facebook feed. And lastly, number 3, it's best if people receive their book at least 1 month prior to your launch. Timing is incredibly important when it comes to sales, and you want a bit of space between when they received your gift and when your launch goes live. Furthermore, we'll be sending them something else in phase 3, which will take your results to an entirely another level. Speaking of the next video, now make sure you subscribe to Brian G. Johnson TV, as I'll be sharing how you can leverage all that social proof and how you can get seed book reviews on Amazon prior to your official launch date and lots more. Now, if you've enjoyed this video or if you've gained some insight, please leave me a thumbs up and let me know in a comment how you're planning on implementing some of these principles of influence yourself. Hey, it's been a lot of fun, and thank you so much for spending your time with me. Don't think for a minute that I don't appreciate it. You know what? It's Brian G. Johnson, and poof, pixie dust.